Time to pay your debt.
What's up, Carpies, and welcome to the May instalment of Carp Life. I am in a KFC in Northamptonshire so that Alex can pay off his debt for his 2 previous losses. So he actually owed me 2 Zinger Tower burgers, meals, but I've let him call it quits on a 4-piece boneless dips. So he's got off lightly.
Well, you're actually lucky you got me to pay for that alone.
Really? You are the tightest person I know.
You dragged me in here.
I don't know why you go into these bets when you've got no intention of paying.
Yeah, I know. Maybe
really, I could have had your legs broken. Really. Just took you that long to pay up. But anyway, once I've finished this, we are headed just around the corner to Syndicate Lakes, where I'm going to be fishing on Roman Lake, the Syndicate Lake, for 24 hours. And that'll give me a chance to tell you what I got up to in the month of May.
Have you got enough eggs, mate?
No, I've got another box in there actually.
Why have you got so many eggs?
Now I've got enough eggs.
You on the egg diet or something?
Well, it's for my breakfast and I just put them in a shaker. Put them in a shaker. Bosh. Egged up. Well, here I am at Syndicate Lakes, parked in the Roman Lake car park, the Syndicate car park, for the first time as a Syndicate member. I've actually been here once before. I had a guest session, I think it was 2 years ago. We had a guest session. I was here with Alex and we filmed a piece for CC Moore. And that's the only time I've been able to fish this venue. It's a very exclusive syndicate and I feel incredibly privileged to be here as a fully fledged member. I think it's taken me about 5-6 years to get up the waiting list and get on, and I can't wait for this session. I can't remember the last time I was this buzzing for a session in the UK. I'm not here for long though. I have only got 24 hours, so it's going to be very much a recce mission, if nothing else. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab the Polaroids, so grab them around my neck, don't need to grab them, there. And I go for a walk and hopefully spot a few carpy signs, and as I'm walking along I'll tell you a bit more about what I got up to right at the start of May. Well, right at the start of the month, on the 1st of May, I was down at East Elf Lakes for some tutorial sessions. I started things off with Jace, who I was there with for 24 hours, and this turned out to be really tough going. We had high pressure, which meant cold nights, warm days, still bright conditions, and the fish just weren't playing ball at all. It wasn't until the next morning when Jace finally got things up and running with his beautiful looking ghosty.
So it's shortly after first light and Jace is finally off the mark. It's been quite tough going, but that looks mega, that fish. Cracking 18-pound ghost linear. What a way to get things up and running. I reckon there's a chance of another bite or two as well, yes. Down them margin rods. I don't think this will be the only one. Cursed it having a really saying that, but that looks class, mate.
Thank you.
Well, it turns out that was the only fish at the session. As is often the case when you've got conditions like this, those feeding periods can often be quite short-lived, and that was definitely the case on this occasion. I then had Dan for 24 hours, and he really did hit the ground running. He'd only had the rods in the water for an hour, and he caught this lovely 20-pound plus linear.
Yes. Oh, not blinking. Oh, man. Nice one. Yeah, it's lovely.
£20 1 ounce, you ready?
Yeah.
You ready? You ready?
£20 2 ounce.
You ready? £20 4 ounces.
Hey.
So, my man Dan is off to a flyer with this awesome looking linear of £20 4 ounces. What a start!
Brilliant. Chuffed to bits.
I am.
Cracking
awesome,
looking
isn't it?
fish, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly.
definitely. Cracking looking fish.
On a piece of bread flake.
Bit of bread crust, we'll say. Bit of crust.
Well done, mate.
Cool.
Well, up until this point, I hadn't actually fished myself. But for the final night of the session, I decided to put one rod out down the margin with just a handful of Pacific tuna boilies. The hook bait was one of my pop-ups that I trimmed down, so it just to say sunk under a BB shot. And I'm really glad I did that, to be honest, because it worked rather well. That night I caught 3 carp. The first one was a mid-double figure mirror, and that mid-double figure mirror was backed up with 2 £20 plus commons. Well, it was quite a productive night's fishing for me. Last night landed 3 fish. First one was a low double figure mirror, and this one came along, £20 6 ounces.
One of your target fish, mate, isn't it?
Indeed it is, with a fully scaled common.
Awesome.
So this is the third fish from last night's trio, and we've got another common, although this one's a tiny bit bigger at £20 15 ounces. And the 2 20s both fell to my own special, as yet unreleased and unnamed
Carp Freak pop-ups.
Carp Freak pop-ups, yeah. So really pleased that they've done the biz.
Another one to tick off your target list as well.
Absolutely, yes, the leather common.
You sure? It looks like the zip linear common to me.
What are you actually doing?
You know what I'm doing?
I'm taking a photo of your view.
I'm just taking... I'm scanning it. I'm counting my calories at the moment.
What is it anyway?
Just a little protein snacky thing.
It's probably got like 4 calories in it. Do you really need to count them?
47 calories,
A bit unnecessary, isn't it?
5.2 grams of protein.
I thought you were Instagramming like a pack of your puddings.
Oh, Christ. Well, in the hour and a bit that I've been walking around, I've seen a couple of signs. I've seen a fish crash along this reedy margin to the right of where I'm stood now. I mean, it could have been the same fish crashing. It was about 10 minutes apart. But yeah, I've seen something there, and I've seen a fish cruising around on the back of the wind at the opposite end of this 9-10 acre lake. So yeah, I haven't got loads to go on, but like I said before, there's plenty of time. I'm in no rush, and I'm sure as we go into dusk, then I'm sure there will be some more signs for me to act upon. Well, that next weekend was spent working down my lake. We still had a lot of trees and brash to clear away before the diggers and dumpers could move in and the next phase of the stock pond development could begin. Well, it's the day before we extend the stock pond. I've got some extra labourers down here helping today. There's my mum dragging a big log. making me feel really guilty. But we've got 3 fires on the go. There's my dad over in the car park. But yeah, this is the area that the stock pond's obviously going to be extended into. We've had to fell about 60 trees to clear the space, most of which I've actually logged up and is at home for firewood. But the stuff that I didn't have the space for, we're obviously burning down here. If I swing a little bit right, there's the stock pond as it is now. You can hear that whirring noise in the background. That's the pump over there. We're dropping the water level in the stock pond by about 3 feet. We've got about 6-7 feet of water in there, so I'm going to drop it by 3 feet because that's the depth I'm going to have the new area. So by dropping it by 3 feet, then obviously we're not working below the water line, and it means that the banks are going to remain dry, which is going to be easier for the diggers and dumpers to work on. But yeah, the stock pond's going to come round here. These obviously, well, these posts are, these stumps are, they're all going to be removed with the diggers. So the stock pond's going to come around there and then follow the perimeter there around the edge of the trees. So yeah, I'll make it around twice the size. We've left quite a lot of trees down here. We are actually sort of digging it into this wood here, so it's already going to be naturally landscaped. I think it's going to look really nice. Right, I'm starting to feel really guilty that my mum and dad are doing all the work, so I'm going to get stuck in and lend a hand.
I was very lucky that weekend that my mum and dad could lend a hand, because it really was a mammoth job for one person. I mean, chopping down the trees is not really a big job. It's chopping those into firewood sized bits or dragging it away and burning it. That's what's time consuming. And without their help, I would have been knackered, physically, mentally and emotionally, I think. But we did manage to get all the work done, and just in the nick of time really, because the next morning, that's when the diggers and dumpers moved in and we could really get down to business.
It's like it's a tea liqueur.
Really?
Just try a tiny sip.
You know what I'm like, mate.
It's a liqueur. I mean, it's not exactly strong, is it?
No, I don't like just drinking out of the bottle.
Just drink out of the bottle.
Yeah, go on then.
Do you want it in one of these?
Is that a shot cup? You got any shot cups?
Yeah, just drink out the cap.
Where did you get it from?
Well, I'm just going to explain that now. Well, it's different. Alex is filming me and I'm filming him. It's a bit of an alternative perspective going on here. But I got given this tea liqueur at the weekend from Pavel.
Who?
Pavel, who was on a group tutorial with me at East Elf Lakes.
Alright.
And he gave me this Slovakian tea liqueur, which is really kind of him. And I had a little drink with him, so I'm going to give Alex some to try too. Just a little bit. You're not driving anywhere, are you, after this?
Is it strong?
No, it's just a liqueur. There, just try it. Just do it in one.
What's his name?
Pavel.
Cheers to Pavel. This is hopefully going to catch me a nice carp tonight.
Yep, toasting your success already.
Is that meant to be tea?
It's tea liqueur, yeah. It's yeah.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I can't even talk. What is it?
72%.
Can't even breathe. I literally can't breathe. I need some water. Oh wow, I've got actual heartburn. I think I have to sit down. You told me there's a tea liqueur.
It is a tea liqueur. It is. There, tea liqueur. 72%. What, do you want some more? Go on then. Oh, he's on it. Oh, he's on it. You alright?
No. I'm calling it a day.
Oh, that's a nice hard bang. Well, I've just spent about 15 minutes having a lead around in the swim. It is pretty weedy out there, but the thickest part of the weed you can actually see on the surface, and where there isn't any weed on the surface is actually only fairly light weed down below. There is a big bulk of weed pretty much straight out in front of the swim, and there's sort of a horseshoe shaped area where there's no weed on the surface. And below that, it is only light weed, a little bit of light debris. You can feel the lead down quite nicely. But there's one small area in particular, probably about the size of a dustbin lid, where the lead goes down with a real crack. So it's obviously being kept clear, hopefully by feeding fish. And that's where I'm going to present one of the rods. I'm just going to put a light scattering of boilies out there. I've not seen a great deal of fish in the area. I'm kind of going on a little bit of a hunch here. This is the area where there is the most weed, and for me, it would suggest that this is an area that the carp would like to be in. So I'm only going to bait lightly at the moment, just bait enough for a bite, and then kind of play it by ear and see how the session goes. So that's where I'm going to get this rod. The other two rods, I'm going to put one down my left-hand margin. There's an overhanging tree. It's all quite weedy apart from, again, a small area, bin lid size area where it's nice and clean underneath one of the tree branches. And for the third and final rod, I'm not too sure about where to put that just yet. I've found a few nice areas, but none that I'm prepared to commit to just yet. I don't want to start putting a rod on a spot and putting bait on it, and then potentially seeing a fish show somewhere else and then moving it and putting bait on it again. So what I'm going to do for now is just fish with the two rods. The third rod, I'm just going to have a hook bait on, ready to go. And if I do see a fish show, I can just cast it out, put a pouch of bait on it. I know that one's sort of on the money, if you like. But right now, I want to get this rod out in that hole in the weed, and this is the setup that I'm using. It's my version of the hinge stiff rig with a doubled over section of 30-pound rigidity. Size 4 stiff rig beaked hook. Hook bait there is a Pacific tuna cork ball pop-up. I've got a shortish boom of about 7 inches of 25-pound Camatech soft. Lead clip of a 4-ounce Exocet lead. Naked line tail rubber, and I've got a leader here of 20-pound Illusion trans khaki. The main line, I'm actually using 55-pound braid. It is weedy here, and braid does give you far superior bite indication in weedy situations like this, and also zero stretch means I should be able to manoeuvre, steer fish out of the heavy weed a lot more safely than on a mono. That's one reason. The other reason is I left my spools of 55-pound braid on from when I was overseas recently and forgot to put my spare spools of mono back in my bag. So one of them reasons, you decide. Either good angling or forgetfulness, whatever. So right, I want to get this in place. So on the Monday, the diggers arrived and we could finally get started. So as well as the digger, we also had 2 10-ton dumper trucks down there, one for me to drive and one for my dad to drive. After about 5 minutes, my dad decided he didn't really like them at all, and I can see why. It was pretty scary. The ground was damp, it was slippy, and one of the places where we're dumping the soil, you had no visibility over the top of the dumper, and the track we were driving down, there was probably about 18 inches either side of the wheels, and it dropped about 12 feet into the lake. That track was really slippy, and then you had to make a really sharp corner, got in between the two gates that are down there. And if you got that wrong, you were going to smash into the gates, which one of us did. I won't say who.
It was you, wasn't it?
It was me. And then to come back, you had to reverse all the way back down. So yeah, there was no room really to turn around. It was reversing back down. So yeah, I had to drive both the dumpers. So it was a case of leading one away. By the time I got back, the other one was full. Jump on that dumper, drive that away, and yeah, so it was non-stop. But by the end of the day, we'd made a massive dent in the work. Now, so far, work had been going pretty well. We had a few light showers, which made the ground a little bit wet, a little bit sticky, and slowed things down slightly. But by the middle of the week, it absolutely chucked it down. We had 2 days of non-stop rain. The ground was just saturated, and we got rained off. There was no way we could travel on it. It would have just made things too boggy, too muddy, and if we'd have started paddling around and putting even more water into the clay, it would have been impossible. So yeah, it was a couple of days before work could resume, and it really didn't get much easier, to be honest. We were unable to travel where we were originally dumping all the spoil. We just couldn't get the dumpers up the hill at all. It was just a no-go. So our only option was to cut through the otter fence and lead it away somewhere else. So now we had less distance to travel, the ground was much firmer, and we were finally starting to make some real progress. However, it wasn't all totally plain sailing. As we started digging further down into the stock pond extension, and we got below that water level, obviously the clay was damper, softer, so we needed to bring in another digger to help smooth the ground up that we're travelling on. We were just making such deep ruts. We were only managing 2 or 3 trips, and then the dumpers were getting stuck. So we had to have a digger constantly levelling the ground to make it easier work for the dumpers to drive on. So by the end of the week, the extended area was complete, and all that was left was a narrow strip of earth that separated the new part from the original half. And I couldn't wait for that sort of dam section to be broken through and both bits joined together. However, that took place the following week, and I wasn't there to see it because I was away with Harry Charrington filming the second half of In Pursuit of Carpiness 2, and I'll tell you a lot more about that in the morning. Well, good morning. Nothing happened through the night for either myself or Alex. Alex is fishing just behind me in Elson's Lake, which is the easier of the 2 lakes.
You chat absolute shit.
But right now he's making it look very, very difficult.
Typical me. Yeah.
But you may have noticed I've put the waders on. I have seen a bit of fizzing coming up over the right hand rod, and there's a lot of weed just in front of the swim here. So if I was to hook one, I'd have to wade out to be able to net the fish. So I'm ready. I'm quite confident that something, well actually no, I'm not confident. I'm optimistic that something might happen. I've seen a fish roll close in as well. So there are fish in the area. There's definitely not loads of fish here by any means. But while there's fish here and there is signs of feeding activity, then there's always a chance. But what I'm going to do now is have some breakfast, and while I'm doing that, I will tell you more about what Harry and I got up to when we went away and filmed In Pursuit of Carpiness 2. So you may remember last summer, Harry and I went off and filmed In Pursuit of Carpiness 2. We visited some amazing countries and went to some absolutely incredible venues. But something happened towards the end of that filming. And we both decided that we wanted to go back and do it again. I don't want to give too much away. So that's exactly what we did. Now, as with all good European road trips, it began at the tunnel crossing, where Harry had come dressed for the occasion.
Look at the state of this dickhead. Proper full camo wanker.
So from there, we headed off to our first destination, where we were meeting up with our good friend Chris de Klerk. And in true CDC fashion, he had a fish in the net just as we arrived. So, with Chris having caught that fish so early on, you can imagine how buzzing we were for our session. And it certainly didn't disappoint. It was absolutely fantastic, especially for Harry, who managed to catch this chunk.
F1.
It's a what?
It's an F1.
Is it a bream?
Oh,
Really?
it's a like F1. Basically.
Have a look at it then. Grab the rod. Oh yeah, it's one of them.
Oh, mate.
Oh yes!
Look at that.
What is it?
Nailed bottom lip. They call them.
Crass.
Well, yeah, it's like a Caraccio, isn't it? I know in Holland they call them giebels.
Ah yeah. Hebrew. Oh hello, right, come on, this needs a bit of a carpy pose going on here.
I mean, it's a bit covered in duckweed.
Duckweed makes the shot.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Are you getting that?
I am getting
Are
it.
you getting it?
If I'd have caught one of them, that would be my PB of one of them.
I think this is my PB of one of them.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, congrats, mate.
It's like a carpy carp, non-carp carp.
It just looks like a really ugly common, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
But I like it.
Bigger than the first carp that I caught in Norway, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're about the same size.
Epic.
Lovely. Don't know where the bank like ends.
I know, that's why I'm filming, because this could be potentially video gold.
Right, that's as far as I'm willing to go.
Really? Come on. Pick up. Hang on, there's a leaf. There's a branch in that thing in the way. Hang on.
Oh, I put my hand in the stinging nettle as well.
Oh.
Right, that's a better position though.
That's a good. I'm loving the position.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Magic.
Absolute
magic. Oh, I've got stinging nettle hand. I've got stinging nettle bollocks now. Give us a hand. I'm very slimy, by the way.
From here, we headed off to our next country and our next destination. But it wasn't long after we arrived that we found ourselves in a perilous situation. Right, we've got a major problem. There's a mouse in the van. I've just found him in the bag of boilies. And he's ran off, but not ran outside the van. So somewhere in here is a mouse. Right, this can't happen. This cannot happen. There! Mouse crap. I can hear another one. Bet there's one in here. Oh, there's my van. Not in there. Right, there's lots of them out. So with the threat having been eliminated, we could finally relax and concentrate on the fishing. And what those few days had in store for us was nothing short of unbelievable. It certainly blew my mind, and it's probably up there as being one of the best weeks fishing of my life. Not just in terms of the fish that we caught or size of fish caught, but just the company, the atmosphere, the vibes that surrounded the whole session. It was just mind-blowing. And even now, 3 weeks on, I'm still on such a massive buzz from that session, and I can't wait to see all the footage put together so that you guys can see and share that experience with us. Well, having got home from that amazing trip, my first port of call the next morning was the lake to see how the stock pond had got on while I'd been away. And sure enough, the newly extended section and the original section were joined together, and the pool was filling up nicely. Well, I got back home from filming In Pursuit of Carpiness 2 in the early hours of the morning after a 16-hour drive. And after saying hello to the kids when I woke up, I've now come down the fishery to check out our new, what was stock pond. And it's looking pretty amazing. The water level isn't filling up anywhere near as fast as I thought it would be. But obviously we've extended that far half there, so that'll probably take a while to let the water soak in and sort of seal itself, if you like. I mean, there's a fair bit of water coming in, but it's probably only come up a few inches since I was here last. No, I'm really happy with this. It's going to look awesome when it's actually full of water. What I hadn't expected though was to see the fish spawning. Temperatures that day were only around 12 degrees in the northeast, and I think there'd been only sort of mid-double figures in the couple of days before that. But sure enough, the fish in the main pool were spawning like mad. Well, later that week it was time for more tutorial sessions, and this time I was pretty close to home. I was at Wellum Lake in Malton, North Yorkshire. Now, we actually went here back in one of the winter episodes of Carp Life, although we only stayed for like 3 or 4 hours, and it snowed, but conditions were a lot better this time, funny enough. Now at Wellum, you now have the option where you're able to fish on the island, and Gaz, the owner, has built a raft to take you and your kit over to the island, and you can actually fish off that central point, and that's what we had for the 24 hours that we were there. Well, conditions on this occasion were great for a bit of surface fishing, and we soon got to work spotting out floaters,
And it wasn't long at all before Matthew got the first fish of the session.
So this is Matthew's second fish of the session, and this bite came about very quickly after a change of tactics. We've been struggling a bit with the fish in the controllers. There's been a bit too much drift and the baits haven't really been behaving naturally. So we switched over to an over depth zig, and I don't know, how long was this in the water on the over depth zig?
2 minutes if that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's yeah, nice to get a result after a quick change of tactics. Well done, well done. I reckon we're going to get a few more yet.
Now, I hadn't actually planned on fishing on this session, but while Matthew was tying up a new hook length, the fish were absolutely pack-manning out in front, and I couldn't resist just having one cast. And I think the rod was in the water about 10 seconds, and I managed to fluke out this rather nice 20-pound common.
Well, I'm not actually fishing on this session, but I did have a sneaky cast with a floater rod and managed to fluke out this nice 20-pound common. So yeah, I'm more than happy with that.
Well, after I slipped that fish back, conditions did change slightly. We had a really stiff breeze now blowing across the lake, and it made it very difficult to get good presentation fishing with a controller float. So instead, we switched over to zigs that were fished just an inch or two over depth. And yeah, that change produced a bite very quickly indeed.
Third fish now for Matthew, and second one in quick succession on the over depth zigs. It really is a good way of anchoring that bait in position. We're not having to recast all the time, causing unnecessary disturbance of the swim. And yeah, it's definitely working well so far.
Fish were absolutely loving the floaters that day. Just by putting out regular spods of floating trout pellet on the back of the wind and allowing them to drift in front of the swim, Matthew was able to keep the bites coming right through the day.
Looks like a slim young Tom Maker from behind with your sticky baits top on.
As we moved into the evening, we had a change of tactics. Instead of fishing on the surface with over depth zigs, we dropped down to fishing on the bottom. And my plan was to fish out and out sweet corn. I find it does work very well on Wellum. There are a lot of carp in the lake, and by having lots of little food items, it keeps the fish feeding, grubbing about in the swim for longer. If you put out a kilo of boilie, it can be eaten in no time. If you put out a kilo of sweet corn, it's lots of little tiny grains of corn, and it just keeps them feeding for a much longer period. Hook baits were just two balanced bits of rubber corn, and the tactic worked really well, and it didn't take Matthew long at all to get the first bite of the evening.
So this is fish number 6, smashing them out. And the biggest one so far, 20 pound 12 ounces. Top man. All we're doing right now is just fishing with 2 bits of rubber corn over quite a heavily baited area of just sweet corn. And yeah, you've had 3 bites off this tactic already. So it's looking good for the night ahead.
Now on the island, Gaz, the owner, has got this really cool fire pit, and that night me and Matthew piled it about 3 foot high with logs and had a great big fire. I mean, you can't beat a carpy fire when you're out on the bank. And that night we just sat around chatting by the fire, and it was a really nice end to what had been a great day. So what else have I been doing in the month of May? Well, because I've been away so much, every bit of my spare time has been spent with my two girls. Every evening that I've been at home, we've been running. They're still really keen and enthusiastic about that. We also went to a Himalayan garden and sculpture park thing, which they really enjoyed.
Come on then, little people. Let's go and see some trees. Tremendous.
I've got to be honest, I don't really get sculptures and things like that. I guess it's just not my thing. But this one caught my eye.
Really?
And my two girls really liked this one. What, the flat owl?
Yeah. It's good. I know you don't get it.
No, I don't know, it just must be, it must be lost on me. I just think it's just something done really, really badly.
I think it looks good. A lot of time has gone into that.
How?
It's good.
How has a lot of time gone into that?
I thought you liked owls anyway.
I do like, exactly, I like owls. That isn't an owl, it's an owl that's been squashed.
It really doesn't do justice to owls.
It's, if it was like really detailed, it's not, I go to my children's parents' evenings and I see all like the sculptures they do in clay, and it's better than that. But I think the main thing that I took from my trip to the Himalayan Sculpture Park was I got plenty of landscaping tips for me to apply down the lake.
I like these steps and railings. These would be nice down the lake. Yeah. Quite carpy actually.
Well, before I sign off this month, I'm still getting lots of questions asking about the progress of my new pop-ups. Well, I have the latest test batch here. I think this is test batch number 11. I think we're on now. With every stage, there's slight tweaks to the flavour combo, and with every batch, we get a stage closer to the finished product. Unless I'm absolutely 100% happy with them, then I'm not going to put my name to them, and they won't be released. But yeah, every time we do get a step closer. Still haven't got a name for them yet, by the way. So I'm open to suggestions to that. So I'll put that in the comment section below if you like. Now the colour when they are released won't be quite this pink. They'll be more of a washed out pink, and they'll also be available in white. They'll be available in two sizes too. They'll be available in a 13mm and also a 14mm plus, which will be a more buoyant version, a bit like there is with the Northern Specials. So the plus is for people that are leaving rods set for a long time, and then the standards either for shorter sessions or if you're wanting to balance off a snowman type setup. But I mean, the guys that have been testing them have had some absolutely brilliant results, and I'm sure as we get closer and closer to the finished article, those results are only going to get better and better. So May has been quite a hectic month, really. There's a lot happening down at the lake with the stock pond extension, and that all went without too much of a drama. The tutorials went absolutely brilliantly. There's lots of PBs caught on those, and of course, let's not forget my trip away with Harry when we put the finishing touches to In Pursuit of Carpiness 2, which turned out to be one of the best angling weeks of my life. But now we move into June, and already so much is happening. I've already had one group tutorial down at East Elf Lakes, which went absolutely fantastic. Next week
I'm filming the latest episode of the challenge, and there's more tutorials and group tutorials coming up. So June looks like it's going to be very, very busy, and it'll give me lots to talk about in next month's episode. So it's time to announce the winner from last month's bait competition, and the question that I asked you to answer was, how many fish did Alex catch during our short match at Polebridge Farm? And the answer was, of course, 0, although we did catch a fish after the match that I hooked into and let him land. Well, that didn't really count. And the winner that I picked at random from all the correct answers was Mike Wilkie. So well done, Mike. Drop me a message either on here, on Facebook or Instagram with your details, and we'll get that little bait package out to you as soon as possible. So now it's time for this month's giveaway, and this time we have some floater fishing goodies. We have 5 kilo of the small floating trout pellet, 5 kilo of the 11mm floating trout pellet, a mixture of oils to really boost them up, and also some duo floater hook baits. Now what you have to do to stand a chance of winning this little lot is simply subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to CC Moore's YouTube channel, and also help me to come up with a name for my pop-ups, which will be released at some point this year, and we are no closer to giving them a name at all. Just to give you a bit of background info, they are a mixture of old school flavors. It's an old school blend, and they're also going to be available in washed out pink and white. So yeah, just post your suggestions in the comments section below, and I'll pick one winner that I like the look of in next month's episode. It may not necessarily be the name we end up calling the pop-ups, just whatever kind of catches my eye. So get entering, get commenting, get subscribing, and I'll announce the winner in next month's Carp Life. Good luck.